whole bodies, parts of bodies, damaged bodies. The smell was very hot at the time. And the smell of death, something that I was not a surprise. I had smelled it before, but will never leave me.
Finally, protesters began to arm themselves. Many young rebels went to nearby cities and counties, urging locals to rise up against the military. Most of the police forces in the region were mobilized to Gwangju. The protesters easily seized firearms by overpowering the skeleton crew of police at the armories and police stations. These armed rebels call themselves Shinmin-kun, the Citizens' Army. Not only did the members of Shinmin-kun fight, but they also maintained basic social order. They were welcomed wherever they went. Stores opened again. Markets were crowded as well. Shortages of food became increasingly serious as the government severed distribution lines of products into the city. However, the Gwangju people overcame the situation by coming together as a community. Grocery stores, drugstores, and supermarkets handed out goods free of charge. Within each neighborhood, housewives prepared food together. Furthermore, unlike other countries or cities in chaos, none of the 45 financial and banking institutions in Gwangju were looted. Every hospital was crammed with the critically injured. There was not enough blood for the necessary transfusions. As the citizens heard of this shortage by word of mouth, they began to donate blood en masse. Even prostitutes lined up to donate blood. In the midst of the inhumane tragedy of May 1980 and the chaos that ensued, the citizens of Gwangju were able to form a beautiful community. In order to recover loved ones' bodies, people gathered around Sangmu Judo Studio, a temporary mortuary. The place was cloaked in tears and sighs of the bereaved families.
내가 원수를 갚겠습니다. 저는 제가 조사해서 죽여버릴 거다, 이 개새끼다.
How many more lives must be sacrificed in the name of Korean democracy? Under a new set of commands, the military sealed off the city.
Foreign reporters, one of the challenges was how to get our story out from Gwangju to our newspapers, because all the telephone lines to Gwangju had been cut. And so we would travel outside, go outside the city to a small town north of Gwangju, where at the telephone office, or rather at the post office, there was a telephone for calls to outside the city. and there we could place our overseas calls and telephone our calls to our editors. And so
amid the horror and sense of isolation, the people of Gwangju held a series of mass rallies in an effort to maintain morality. Starting May 23rd, the rallies drew tens of thousands of people every day. At the platform, speakers from all social classes made speeches or read statements. In addition, on May 23rd, the citizens of Gwangju organized a committee to try to peacefully resolve the situation between themselves and the government. Citizens voluntarily returned the stolen firearms to the committee. However, after the preliminary negotiations between the committee and the military failed, those rebels who had refused to lay down their arms gained control of the committee. The Martial Law Command refused further negotiations on the pretext that all weapons were not surrendered. Instead, they issued an ultimatum stating that if the rebels did not give up their arms by 4 p.m. on May 26th, military action will be taken against them. To surrender or to die. The leaders of the uprising decided to fight to the last.
가정을 가지고 있는 가장으로서
When we decided to fight, the fear of death gripped me.
여기서 이렇게 죽어
I am the father of 2 children. I can't die here.
두려움, 최후 1인까지 싸워보자고 노력했고.
But in realizing the historical importance of this event, I quickly overcame this fear of death. We must not surrender, for it would be shameful.
도청을 비우게 되면은 역사 기록이.
By the afternoon of May 26th, the military finished preparations for retaking Gwangju. For another massacre, it got the green light from the United States. Afraid of the emergence of another anti-American regime on the Korean peninsula, the United States did not want the Gwangju uprising to spread into a nationwide rebellion. At 4:10 a.m. on May 27th, the military launched an attack on Gwangju. Shortly before this attack, warning messages were broadcasted over the radio. Citizens do not be alarmed. Citizens stay inside. Citizens do not open your doors.
시민은 폭도를 숨겨주지 마십시오. 시민은 군 작전에 협조해 주십시오.
it was a starry night, a clear night with stars. As 4 o'clock arrived, I could hear church bells. And as the church bells were still ringing, I could hear gunfire begin on the outskirts of the city. And I have a strong memory of the mingling of those sounds of church bells and gunfire.
When I tried to take the picture and the 2 soldiers saw me, one of them raised his rifle and pointed at me. I didn't think he would shoot because we all believed the government knew where we were. They knew that hotel was filled with foreign correspondents. But he did shoot. And in fact, his first round hit the wall next to my head, perhaps 2 inches away. There's a sound that a bullet makes when it goes very close to you. It's a crack.
Listen, all foreigners in Gwangju. Listen, all foreigners in Gwangju. Army performed the military operations to clear the rioters in the city. Please keep inside the building and don't come out.
Citizens, this is the Army Martial Law Headquarters. The following are the results of our operation as of 6 a.m. There were no innocent civilian casualties. We've killed 2 rebels and arrested 207.
When the army attacked the Provincial Hall at dawn, May 27th, about 500 citizens were defending the building. Despite the fact that these citizens knew the odds were completely against them, they fought courageously to the end. The army mobilized 18 tanks, 9 APCs, 4 500MD helicopters, and 2 Cobra gunships. The soldiers were armed with automatic weapons, explosives, and flamethrowers. The end of the uprising officially marked the success of the coup d'etat. The coup organizers finalized their rise to power. After suppressing the Gwangju uprising and sentencing Kim Dae-jung to death, Chun Doo-hwan appointed himself president.
제11대 대통령으로 선출해 주신 통일주체 국민회의 대의원과 국민 여러분들에게 심심한
17 years later, in 1997, reparations to the tragedy in Gwangju were finally made. Chun was sentenced to life imprisonment for treason. In 1997, Kim Dae-jung was elected president. Today, Koreans have come to recognize the significance of the events of Gwangju and the sacrifices that were made so many years ago.
There should be no more tragedies like the Gwangju uprising, where innocent people shed their blood. We can learn 2 very important lessons from the May 18th uprising. 1. Those who murder their own people for their personal agendas will ultimately be punished. And 2. That democracy can be achieved through the perseverance and sacrifices of a nation's people.
Gwangju, May 1998. Nothing remains in Gwangju which will testify to the tragedy and resistance of May 1980. Only a small monument at the provincial office building, where many people laid their lives on May 27, 1980, commemorates the lofty cause of the dead. Those days are slowly receding into our memory. Mm-hmm.